Peace, love, and law. Today's subject is about negotiable instruments, laws of negotiable instruments, securitization, commercial law, trust law, and if this is not your cup of tea, please feel free to keep scrolling. These subjects right here are not very easy to understand. They're complex. They're very intricate. This is not for people who don't read. Even people who don't read, they can. You're not gonna understand it. You have to like really practice and exercise your brain for this. It's that's why only a few people know how to interpret. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone. I'm just saying that it took me a lot of time of solitude to figure this shit out. At least to the point where I know right now, to where I'm gonna start to put all these things to practice. And you might probably might not see me that much coming out with videos and all that. This making videos really helps, because then I am able to test myself to see how much I really understand. If I'm able to explain, then I understand. And not only that, I also put myself out there to be scrutinized, criticized, corrected, challenged, and whatever the case may be, it helps, because then now I am pushed to dive even deeper and look further and go more into because you know why I say solitude? I needed time to listen to that inner voice, to really try to understand what it is that I am reading or consuming in form of literature and information. Because when you're amongst a crew, there's so much opinions, and they have not seen, they have not read, they have not come across or even thought about the same things as you have, or as I have. So going into solitude really helps, but making the video also helps. So negotiable instruments, promissory notes, bills of exchange. Now, if you notice, this is a money that is used here in the country of Belize, and this is a contract. Well, it evidences a contract. It's a contract between the government of Belize and the central bank. It is my understanding that the government of Belize borrows these pieces of paper right here. These are properties of the central bank, which they manufacture and they issue out. They print it out, or it's printed out under their authority. And the government of Belize borrows these things right here. And then the government gives them a right to charge them an interest, right? And this is basic law merchant. Basic law merchant. If you know anything about law merchant, you'd understand what I'm saying perfectly. So now, that right there, giving somebody or the bank receiving a right to charge an interest, that right there is also part of a securitization process, which by the bank acquiring a right to charge the government interest, it means that the bank probably holds a lien on the government. Probably holds a lien on the government. So that's why the government then must collect those taxes to pay for the interest for these things right here. So now, I want to talk about the lien process. A lot of people don't understand that lien. It took me a while to understand that, and I might still not have it fully figured out, but let's talk about it still, right? So now, let's say there is a an agreement between my person and the electric company. The electric company is offering service that provide electricity, and my person needs some electricity, needs that service. So my person goes and applies for the service, signs a service agreement, right? So in that agreement right there, it appears that the electric company is giving some service, which is some form of value, to my person. And now my person receives the value, but now must give consideration. And that's what one of those principles of law, contract law, value for consideration. So now the consideration is that my person is giving the electric company a lien on the account, is giving the electric company the rights to charge the account. But how was the account opened? Well, the account was opened upon the acceptance of the electricity company of my person's promissory note, or promise to pay for services, right? So now the account was opened simply because the promise to pay for service was accepted. And once it's accepted, the lien was put in place, and it was evidenced by the bill which was sent to my person. So now I get the bill now because my person is an ens legis, is a fiction. It's not real. So now I must perform on behalf of my person. Now, most of us perform in such a way that we just give them these contracts. We give them because it's a property that we acquired by exchanging our labor for this. And again, you can see the same thing. I offered labor, which is value. They gave me consideration, which is this note, and a right to benefit from it. So I'm the only one who can benefit from it. Right? But now this becomes something that I've acquired by giving value, but that falls more into trust because now I acquired it. This is now something of benefit for me. Now I can go and spend it how I want, or I could invest it or whatever. But because this is a transaction that I gave value and they gave me consideration, this is the consideration right here. And now this, I can go and I can charge, I have the right to collect and charge them for this. So I go take it to the bank and they have to give me credit because I hold a lien on this. So it works like that all the time. Value for consideration, and then the rights to charge an account, and then a lien is put in, and the lien evidence is that. So now let's take it a step further. If I would have signed that contract, and just like normal, for my person to acquire service from the electrical company, and I completed that contract, but then let's say I turned that contract around and I said, for value received, I hereby convey this instrument and assign this instrument to Belize Electricity Limited, let's say, or to one of its financial officers, or to the CEO. I assign this instrument to you, CEO of Belize Electricity Limited, for the benefit of the account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I put my name, I sign my name, authorized representative or owner. What I'm referring to is the contract. I'm referring to that contract that I'm gonna give it to them, and I'm letting them know that they can have this. I'm assigning it to them. I'm letting them use that for their benefit, and they will use it. The electric company uses all these contracts as evidence that they're going to receive payment for the upcoming years, and because they have that, then they can get a loan, or they can create debentures, which they do. So they get to benefit from the contract. So they're using the contract. So I would then, let's say I sign over the rights of that contract for them to be able to use it as some form of money, for them to use it as some form of security, and they benefit from it. In the same way that my person is benefiting from their service, they're benefiting from my contract. So I'm giving them value on one side, right? And they're giving my person value on another side. So now there's two accounts. One is created upon trust, that I'm giving them I'm assigning them the rights, title, and interest to that contract, and now I give them the rights to charge the account, but only because I have appointed them as trustee. So now they acquire the lien, they become lien holders of the account, but only because of the trust. So now the trust is basically my assignment to them. So now, obviously, we could take it a step further. Then let's say they accepted the contract, they send me a bill now, send my person a bill. Obviously, now there's a mistake there. Why would they send my person a bill? My person is not the one in charge of that. Now there's a trustee to that account. The trustee is now liable for any obligations that may be due, any performance that may due. That's why they've been appointed as trustee. So the bill should now go to the trustee because the trustee is the lien holder. The trustee is the only one who could actually make a charge on the account, right? So that bill of exchange would be accepted and would be sent over to the trustee. And by the way, bills of exchange operate under trust. That's what they operate in trust law. They operate within trust. So it makes sense now that the trust has been created. A ledger should have been created because why? A trust is when someone receives property and has been appointed as trustee. And obviously there's a beneficiary. Who's the beneficiary that I mentioned? I mentioned that the beneficiary is an account. An account, right? So if the beneficiary is the account, well, what should they do when the account needs to be settled? Well, they should probably use the promissory note which was given to them, which was assigned to them, and if they used it as debentures or for to create debentures, or when it's obvious that they're using it for profit, and therefore now I have a right to collect an interest from them. So possibly it would be that they can take that interest owed to me and apply that to what my person owes them. And maybe that's one way of dealing and settling these obligations. And this is how we can go about understanding every transaction, because every time an account is opened, it needs somebody's getting a lien on the account. Somebody's getting the right to charge it. That means they're perfecting a security interest in every transaction. Well, that's the appearance. Maybe they're not really getting, but they're implying it in their conduct. And because we don't rebut it, it becomes, it just becomes fact, or it becomes an unrebutted fact, right? Or it could be a presumption. Whatever the case may be, we didn't say nothing. It proceeds as a presumption that there's already a lien on the account, there's already rights in place, there's already agreements in place. So therefore, when we look at every transaction is like that. So for example, you go and borrow money from the bank, and the bank then makes you sign a promissory note. Obviously, they're just creating a contract. So because contract, you can use it as money. Did you know that here, okay, in Belize here, I found out that there's a contract tax, right? Now, obviously, you hear that, you're like, what do you mean contract tax? There's a tax applied in the contract. Well, I mean, the contract is a monetary obligation that is due, so they apply a tax on that. Probably, yeah. But if you use the contract as a form of money, now isn't there, and then you haven't claimed it, then the government will claim it, because a tax is usually the government claiming an interest on behalf of the principal. They're acting as principal. But anyway, some very exciting information that when you learn, you kind of want to try it out. And Here in Belize, it's really tough, because it don't matter who I talk to in government. It's just I can't get anybody to understand this. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. They don't they don't understand trust, first of all, and they don't understand money as being a promissory note. Like they don't understand what that means. And because then if you know it's a promissory note, you know you can't pay for anything. And if you can't pay for anything in the public, obviously every time you open an account, because only promises are being used, well, every promise needs to be secured by something of value. That's why they ask you for collateral. So the thing of value that they ask most of the time, without people not even knowing, is rights to the interest, rights to collect, rights to charge an account. So every time there is a bill sent, that means that this already implied that that account is secured. That account should be secured. It should be collateralized. Because now, what is the thing of value other than the interest that they received? Well, you should have left a collateral, and you did. Every one of us leaves a collateral, but we don't express it being a collateral. We leave a contract with our signature that can be used in a financial setting as an instrument which can be negotiated somewhere. Hey, you want to buy this? You want to buy this? You want to buy this? It's a contract. Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? So they're negotiating it in the background so they can get credit. So if they already negotiated it, that means they already got what you promised to give them. They already got it. Do you know what I mean? So what are they going to do with it? Why are they charging double or more than once? So it's a little bit complex. Like I said, it's not for everybody. Because you got to understand property rights, and you got to understand that almost everything involved in a transaction is practically under property rights. Everything. Like this is a form of property. The rights attached to it is a form of property. The account that it'll be held in is a form of property, and the rights on that account is a form of property. So there's all these property rights, and a lot of them can just fly past us because we just aren't trained. We're in a system of master-slave system. That's what we are, master-slave system. And in the past, the master, obviously, all of his property is private. Master has private property, private life, private house, private land. You go in his land, he'll shoot the hell out of you. You go trespassing on his land. But he has a public entity that does all his runarounds, that does all his work, or just does things for him. And not only that, he has this public entity which he can use as a collateral. He has a slave, and he can then borrow from another master and say, hey, I need some resources, and then the master would say, sure, let's draw a contract. And then the master would offer one of his slaves and say, hey, well, I'll give you, if I can't pay you, well, you can have one of my slaves. Here's the bond that represents my slave. Here you go. So it's the title to the slave. So the slave can be used as a collateral, or can be used to help to pay off the debt for the master. Right? So our slave, everybody has a slave, which is their person, their birth certificate person. And that's one way of looking at it. I'm not saying that's the only way. And we are masters. Why? Because obviously we're masters of our own world, masters of our own destiny, masters of our own energetic life force, and we get to say who will benefit from that energy. So it makes us grantors of property, of valuable stuff, of value, of substance. We grant that. We're the grantors. But We do that through expressing trust and assigning our value and rights to somebody in the public who can be deemed a creditor, a public creditor. We assign it to them because they are creditors in the public for a certain benefit, which is could be for our person or the account of our person. So this all has to do with law merchant. And when you study law merchant, you start to understand, okay, so we cannot pay anything because everybody's using promises. And it's not even our promise, it's a promise of two other people, or two other persons. But because we're in a public trust setting, the whole government is trustee of the public trust, and these instruments are bills of exchange. Within the trust, they accept it. This is the only legal bill of exchange accepted within the public trust, like out in the open like that. Because once you take it to a bank, any member bank, it'll be honored. The promise will be honored. They'll give credits for it. Like back in the days, you take it to a bank, you'll get gold and silver. They don't have that. They'll give you credits. But credit, again, is only what you give somebody when you ain't got nothing else. You ain't got nothing. So they don't have nothing. The public is broke. That's why it's considered the public is just bankrupt. Because nobody really is operating with value for value. It's always value for consideration, and then there's a securitization of that whole process, and then that creates a commercial lien, and that perfects the security interest. So we are going through that process always in this day and age, in this time. Now, if they ever bring the gold back, obviously it's going to be a little bit different, I guess, but gold. I got a question. Do you guys think gold is more valuable than labor? Which one is more valuable? Is gold and or silver more valuable than the energetic life force of man? Because the energetic life force of man can do all kinds of things. You know what I mean? So obviously, because it's so limitless to what the energetic vital energy of man, then this productive energy that we have, it is far more valuable than gold. The only reason we use gold, or what gold was used back in the days, is just because it was a way of representing the value. But when gold was taken out, what defaulted? What can you use to secure obligations if it wasn't a paper or that represented gold or silver? It was an actual substance. I mean, you could still use things. You can use other things in agreements. You can say, hey, man, you can have my collection of, I don't know, stamps that's worth $1 million. Though, you know what I mean? You can use that as a security. I mean, obviously, there's a certain way of doing that. But you can use those. So you can use anything of property as a security as long as it's accepted. As long as they accept it. You can't just force people to accept something. But in today's society, contracts are known as instruments in commerce, and they can be negotiated. And whoever has a beneficial right to that contract can make a beneficial claim. But that's done through certain processes. I used to think that we just have to send a letter saying, hey, that thing is mine. And that's it. That's how you make a claim. Yeah. Obviously, studying, practicing, you learn more. It's more of when you say, I hereby assign all rights, title, and interest to this instrument to you, Belize Electricity Limited, for the benefit of blah blah blah. The simple fact that you write that, it already implies that there is a trust happening, there is value being offered and conveyed. there's a trustee being appointed, there's responsibilities being assigned to the trustee, and there's a beneficiary.